What is up, and welcome to this live edition of Kuz's Corner. Thank you for joining the show, whether you're watching on Hoops from the Heels or whether you're watching on the Kuz's Corner channel. I appreciate it. We are going to talk about West Virginia's collapse last night in college basketball against the Ohio State Buckeyes. 89-88 loss in double overtime after holding a 10-point lead at halftime and being up by as much as 16 in the second half. They totally fall apart at the end, allow Ohio State to get back in the game. They go to double overtime. And they absolutely cannot stop Bruce Thornton, who absolutely dominates the game in overtime. And the Buckeyes come out with a victory. We're going to talk about that game, and we're going to spend most of the show probably talking, though, about Ross Hodge. Was he the wrong hire for West Virginia? There are a lot of fans on social media who already think Ross Hodge should be fired. I'm going to address that, give you my opinion on it, and we're going to dive into it right now. Before we get started, I do encourage you, please hit the like button. That's a thumbs up button right below the video. It's free to do that. It only takes a second. Also, please, if you're in the live chat, all you have to do is X out, hit the X, close the box, hit the thumbs up, and then click the chat box again. It brings it right back up. That's what you do on a mobile device anyway. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, whether you're watching on Hoops from the Heels or Kuz's Corner. Hoops from the Heels is a channel right now that's specifically geared toward West Virginia basketball only. And Kuz's Corner obviously is all WVU sports overall. Please subscribe to both channels. Thanks for joining the show. I will get to chats as we go through. If you want to make sure I see your comment in the chat, you can always drop me a super chat by highlighting the chat by hitting the $sign of the chat box. That highlights it, it will make sure that I see your comment, and I will address it. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the stats. I'm not going to go over all the stats. We're a day into this thing already. You guys have probably seen the stats by now. But nonetheless, there are some interesting stats that I want to touch on. The biggest stat to me in this game, one of the biggest things West Virginia struggled with all year is shooting the basketball. Well, this game, it was not a struggle. They shot 40% from the floor and 46% from three. They shot the ball well in this game. Well enough that they should have won the game. They defended well for the first, 30 minutes maybe? 25 to 30 minutes, they defended well. But Ohio State was able to make adjustments on offense and found a couple weaknesses in the West Virginia defense, and West Virginia did not adjust. And Ross Hodge admitted at the end of the game in his interview with Tony Caridi and Brad Howell that he did not – I didn't hear this, but this is what based on some chats I'm in, group chats, apparently he admitted that it was his fault. He didn't make adjustments accordingly. And I 100% agree with that. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant just in the state of basketball overall, especially college basketball. I don't understand, and I don't know that a zone defense would have been the answer here, but why do coaches at that level of basketball absolutely refuse to play zone defense? A zone defense is especially if you're playing a team who's bigger than you or more athletic than you, maybe more talented, a zone defense is a good way to try to help alleviate some of that. But I don't understand the reasoning behind coach. Maybe some of you know the answer to that question or have a theory. Switch it, and I'm not saying you have to play zone the whole game for crying out loud, but go to a 2-3 zone or of course, I'm a huge advocate of the 1-3-1 zone, which hardly nobody plays anymore. I think it's the hardest defense to go against in basketball if you do it right and if you have the right athletes. But my point is, change it up, man. Why do coaches, and it ain't just Ross Hodge, it's coaches around the country, they flat out will not play a zone defense, and I don't understand it. It doesn't make you less of a team or less of a coach heck, Jim Boeheim won national championships playing a 2-3 zone. I just don't understand it. But nonetheless, he didn't switch it up. He kept Jasper Floyd on Thornton, who had done a great job. You look through the first and second half of the game, Thornton only had 11 points. He had 9 points. He scored 12 of his points in the 2 overtime periods on 4 of 5 shooting from the floor and 4 of 5 from the free throw line. He absolutely dominated in overtime periods, and they waited until the last possession to try to make an adjustment, and that adjustment didn't work either. But he just flat out bullied the West Virginia defense in the 2 overtime periods, including Floyd, who, again, up until that period had done a pretty good job. Now, I was on social media last night advocating for Amir Jenkins to get more playing time. But maybe that was the wrong thing to do at the time, because I do understand Floyd is a better defender than Amir Jenkins right now. I like Amir Jenkins on the offensive end most games. Now, last night, Jasper Floyd was actually the leading scorer for the Mountaineers in the first half. Were it not for Jasper Floyd's offense, they're not up by 10 at halftime, and this is not even a basketball game. So I don't want to put too much blame on Jasper Floyd here. But at the end of that game, Coach Hodge should have made some adjustments on either taking Floyd off of him, put somebody else on him, or done something. I don't know what the answer is. Again, maybe try going to a zone. That's probably what I would have done. But, again, that's probably why I'm not a college basketball coach. But nonetheless, Coach Hodge did admit it was his error and his fault, and I do respect him for that. But you got to also give hats off, to Bruce Thornton of Ohio State. He played a heck of a basketball game. The guy's averaging 21.7 points a game for a reason. He's one of the best guards in the country for a reason. And he showed it last night when he absolutely took over that basketball game. He was the best player on the court last night, at least in the last 2 overtime periods. Now, Honor Huff played well too, dropping 24 points, shot the lights out, makes some huge shots down the stretch. Hats off to him. Brennan Laureate played well last night for the Mountaineers, dropped 18 points, also had 8 rebounds on the night. So, there were some really positive or 7 rebounds, I'm sorry. There were some positive performances by the Mountaineer players. Floyd, 14 points, 6 rebounds of his own. Shot 2 for 2 from 3. Laureate shot 3 for 3 from 3. Huff was 5 of 13 from 3. So there were some good positive performances, but, man, as a team, they blew it at the end. They did not, for a team that's prized himself on playing tough defense, they did not do that down the stretch, and that allowed Ohio State to win this game. As far as offensively, West Virginia, picked the wrong time of the game to start missing a lot of shots. Outside of Huff, they really didn't have anybody scoring the ball there in those 2 overtime periods until Laureate made that 3 there near the end of the game. But they need to find somebody else to step up and be a consistent second scorer for them, because Tracy and Eagle staff, that young man is just not getting it done offensively. He continues to struggle mentally. He misses a couple shots and he completely shuts down. Like he just stopped shooting the basketball. There were 2 or 3 times last night he drove the ball to the rim, had shots, and instead of trying to shoot it, he would try to throw it back out and make a hard pass when he should have just shot the basketball. And he's in his own head. He's in a mental slump right now. The young man needs to just shoot the basketball. I don't care if you're 0 for 3, 0 for 4, you've got to shoot the basketball. The only way you get out of a slump is to shoot your way out of it, and he won't even try to do that. He lacks confidence right now for whatever reason. He's not comfortable. The games that he's been comfortable, he has played really well. But for whatever reason, he's just not able to get comfortable in every game. And, hopefully he can get that fixed. And, hopefully it's not too late, because they're getting ready to start Big 12 play here in a couple weeks. And they start a gauntlet. So he better get himself right and do it quickly. Let me go here. I do have a super chat I want to get to here real quick before we jump into the Ross Hodge conversation. Painter's Plan. Thank you, sir, for joining the chat. Thank you for the $5 donation. He says, lousy loss, period. It was. That's 2 times this year West Virginia has blown large leads late in the game. They blew, I think it was an 11-point lead against Clemson, and now they blow a 16-point lead against Ohio State, a team who lost to Pitt at one point earlier this year. I think it was only by 1 point, but still. They were a beatable team. West Virginia should have won that game last night. They dominated the entire first half and the first few minutes of the second half. So there were no excuses for losing that game. WVU fan 13 in the house, he says you could see the Hodge wanted to center around Eagle staff at the beginning of the game. He went 0 for 6. Yeah, and he didn't play hardly any down the stretch. I mean, when you look at his overall minutes in the game, he only played 20 minutes of that game. Of all the starters, he played the least amount of minutes. Obi Hall played 23 minutes. He struggled again, only scored 4 points, only had 4 rebounds. Again, for a guy who's 7 foot tall, it's not, he's not scoring enough around the rim, in my opinion. Now, he did some good things defensively. Both of those guys did some good things defensively, but Offensively, your best lineup offensively is right now is probably Floyd, Huff, Moore, Jenkins, and Lorient. That or not Jenkins, but Fields and Lorient. That right now to me is your best five as far as the guys who are playing the best right now. Amir Jenkins coming off the bench, and I might even put Eaglestaff coming off the bench too, which I've mentioned before. But anyway, I do appreciate the donation, WVU fan or the super or the chat comment, WVU fan 13 and Painters playing again. I appreciate the super chat, man. It means a lot. I just hit the applause button. I don't know if you guys heard it, but I sure didn't. Not sure why I didn't. Raven thinks that DJ Thomas has proved himself in multiple games. He deserves more playing time. I would have no issue with that either. It's obvious. I would say Ross Hodge has been too loyal, but I don't know that that's the case because I think last night, there are a lot of fans saying he's been too loyal to Floyd and Lorient. There were a couple games this year I would have agreed, but last night not necessarily the case. I would like to have seen Jenkins get more minutes, but again, as good as Floyd was playing defensively against Thornton earlier in that game, it was probably the right move to keep him in it. But once you actually sit back and think about it and look at it and take the emotion out of it, I think it was the right thing to do. But let's go ahead and jump over and talk about Ross Hodge. A lot of fans were already off the Ross Hodge train. They already want him fired. It's time to move on. He was the wrong hire. I want to talk about that a minute. Before we do, though, I want to remind you to check out our website, wvsportschat.com, where you find written content on the Mountaineers. The folks who designed that site, Appalachia Digital, are sponsors of the show. I want to thank them for their sponsorship, their partnership. If you want to build a new website or you want to improve your current site for your small business or your blog or whatever you have, go to appalachiadigital.com/coos. Let them know I sent you. They can hook you up, get you found easier on Google with SEO optimization services. They do all that stuff. So go check them out, appalachiadigital.com/coos, and thank them for their support here and over on the website, wvsportschat.com. Or if you type in coosascorner.com, it'll also take you to the same landing page. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the WV Fan 13, great comment. He says it's not fair to be Huff in the post to be Steph Curry every possession. Yeah, he has a lot of pressure to be the guy. I mean, he's really the only consistent scorer they have. And, I even thought last night on that last possession of the game when they had 3.4 seconds, the play they ran, I didn't think was a great idea. I thought as fast as Honor Huff is, I would have just given him the basketball, let him dribble up the court as fast as he could and get a shot off. I mean, that you have a better chance of winning that way. And I know some fans they were double teaming him. Set him a screen, do something. They were trying to throw that long lob pass. It just, again, your chances of winning that game at that point are very slim anyway. But you got a guy like Huff, you've got to get him the basketball. And we've seen him make really tough shots over guys before. Give him the ball, man. Just put the ball in his hands and let him go to work. 3.4 seconds is plenty of time. If you pass him the ball and he's standing somewhere around the the elbow or even the 3-point circle, the wing, give him the ball, let him dribble up the court. 3.4 seconds was plenty of time to do that. Somebody come up and set him a quick screen. It'll be a tough shot. It'll be probably a contested shot and probably be a long shot, probably just over half court. But he's made those before. I think that's a better play than trying to throw that half court pass, which, in all fairness to Hodge, Lorient could have caught. If Lorient had caught that ball, it's a different conversation. Had he caught it and he got rid of it, maybe they do. Maybe it would work out. But at the end of the day, it came down to execution. They did not execute the play Jake Rice agreed with me earlier in the chat about the 1-3-1 defense. I love it. When I was a coach, it's the defense I played. I loved it. It works, especially if you have a team that might be smaller or maybe you don't have as much raw talent on your team, things like that. And if you got kids who are dogs who will get after it, who will hustle, it's a great defense, especially if you got some quickness and some speed on the court or some length. It really works, in my opinion. WVU Fan 13 doesn't think Hodge is a problem. I do think that his defensive scheme needs to be tweaked. Running the play clock down to under 5 seconds is killing us. We are not looking for the best shot. I don't I don't necessarily – the running the shot clock down to me is not an issue. The issue to me is they're just not able – even with that, they're not able to get shots off. Running the shot clock down will work if you execute they're just not executing it. I don't know if they don't have the guys to execute it. I don't know what the reason is. But it is frustrating at times. It's not necessarily the funnest basketball to watch at times, to be honest. But it's what Ross Hodge has always done. It's how he coaches. It's who he is. So we better get used to it. And if he can start winning games, I don't think we'll care. Seymour Wang says, well, WVU is not a great team. This is the type of season we expected from DeVries last year. The difference to me is that this team doesn't have Small to bail them out. Absolutely. And that's actually a great segue into what I want to talk about next. Is it time to fire Ross Hodge? Absolutely not. And I think to even talk about that right now is crazy talk. And I know some of you may disagree with me. Guys, we're what are we? 12 games into the first season. We're not even halfway through the season. His first season with an entirely rebuilt roster. There's one player on this team that was here last year, and he doesn't even play. So to say it's time to fire him, to me, is absolutely ludicrous. What did you expect? I don't think it's fair to look at what DeVries' team did last year to start the season and this team. It's apples and oranges, man. DeVries, like WVU fan or somebody mentioned earlier in the chat, I think it was it anyway, whoever just said it. He doesn't have Javon Small to bail him out. Seymour. He doesn't have Javon Small to bail him out. There's no Javon Smalls on this team. Honor Huff's a good player. He's not Javon Small. He's a better three-point shooter probably than Javon Small. He might be a better overall shooter of the basketball, but he's not as good an all-around player. Javon Small was an NBA talent. I don't see an NBA talent, no offense to these guys, but I don't really see an NBA talent on that roster. And he was the main reason that team was so good, especially after Tucker went out. You had somebody that could just come down and will himself to make a play. Honor Huff can do that at times, but at only 5'10", it's hard for him to do that every time because it's hard for him to score in the paint. So that's, I don't think it's fair. And just take a look at DeVries at Indiana this year. Everybody thought he was going to be so great. He's 8-3. And I know, okay, he's only half a game better than Ross Hodge is doing with a much more talented roster at Indiana, I would argue. And two of his losses are to Minnesota, who's 5-5 under a first-year coach. And he also lost to I don't remember the other loss, but he's lost to a couple really bad games. I think he lost to Kentucky as well, who's not playing well right now. Oh, and Louisville, who's a good team. So the Louisville loss is not a bad loss, but the other two, not so good. Kentucky's not playing Kentucky basketball right now. I do think, and yes, Travis, I do think Jenkins can develop into an NBA player, but I don't think he's there yet. So, DeVries is not doing that great in Indiana right now. Speaking of Minnesota, with Nico Medved, they're 5-5 right now. They're not doing very good. They're a 500 basketball team. You have NC State with Will Wade. They're a 7-4 team. about the same as West Virginia. You have Maryland with Buzz Williams in his first year, 6-5. Now, the two exceptions potentially, and I don't even think this first one's an exception. You got Xavier, who beat West Virginia. They're 8-3, half a game better than West Virginia, but they lost their first 3 games and are now on a 5-game, or lost 3 in a row, I think, and are now on like a 5-game winning streak. But nonetheless, they're not that much better than West Virginia record-wise. And now the one exception is Iowa with Ben McCollum, who's 8-2, and both of their losses are the top 10 teams. They lost to Michigan State and to Iowa State. So 2 good losses. Now, a lot of West Virginia fans are going like, yeah, but we could have hired Ben McCollum. He wanted the Iowa job, is my understanding. My understanding is that Ben McCollum was actually, and I don't have confirmation of this, but this is based on what I read on the message boards and what, the rumors that were out there. Ben McCollum wanted to stay home. He's an Iowa guy. He had a chance to coach in his home state. He took it. It was better for him and his family. I'm pretty confident that Rem Baker would have hired him at West Virginia had Ben McCollum wanted to come to West Virginia, but he didn't. So, nonetheless, we got Ross Hodge. Now, so it's not for us to be sitting here talking about how bad of a coach he is. It's fair to criticize him. Absolutely it is. He's not above criticism. And I thought last night, not making those adjustments at the end, he left a timeout on the board, I think, at the end of the first half or second half, whenever it was. I don't even remember now. I was dual watching that along with John Cena's last match last night. By the way, controversy there too, but nonetheless, you're not here to hear about that. But yeah, he left a timeout on the board. There were just a lot of some coaching blunders. But at the end of the day, man, the players didn't execute. They stepped on the 3-point line or on the out-of-bounds line 2 or 3 times last night, not knowing where they were on the court. One time, I think it was Lorient bounced the ball off his leg. I mean, just uncharacteristic mistakes, committed 15 turnovers. You can't do that in these games against Power 4, high major schools. You can't get away with that stuff. But back to talking about Hodge. Let's take another look at something else. His recruiting. He just landed the top recruit in the history of West Virginia basketball, guys, in Miles Sadler for next season. He's got Amir Jenkins here, who's a 4-star player if he stays. He has another 4-star in next year's class, a high 3-star in next year's class that is teammates of Miles Sadler. So they're going to already come in with chemistry. Think about that piece of it. Aliu Diem and Miles Sadler are high school teammates. They're going to come in already knowing how to play together, have that chemistry. Amir Jenkins should be back. DJ Thomas should be back. We have Jaden Forsythe, who's very talented, should come back. There's you 7 players right there you can build around. And then you fill gaps in the portal. So it's way too early to already be throwing in the towel on Ross Hodge after 12 daggone games. That is crazy. And let's think about this. This is a West Virginia basketball program that has been through the ringer when it comes to coaches. They've had 4 coaches in 4 years. Bob Huggins, Josh Allert, Darren DeVries, now Ross Hodge. And if you start over again, you just keep that wheel turning, and it never stops. You have another rebuild next year, likely another bad season or mediocre season, and it just keeps happening. At some point, you've got to stop the bleeding, keep some continuity, and try to build a program. This is long-term play here. This is not a, shot in the arm. Got to win. Yes, they're trying to win now, but this is more of a long-term thing. There are going to be growing pains. And we as a fan base, as emotional as we get, rightfully so, and as frustrated as we get, we have to step back, take the emotion out of it for a minute, and let Ross build the program the way he wants it. He brought in a great recruiter in Yusuf Ali. And keep in mind, he's basically this year's version of Chester Frazier, who's going to be able to bring in some high-end talent. But he was the last coach hired. He wasn't hired until late in the process, which may have hurt recruiting a little bit. Chester Frazier was hired much earlier in the cycle. So it was late. Look how late Hodge was hired in the process. With Eilert as the interim, they were able to get a head start on the process for hiring DeVries because they knew it was going to be Eilert's only year, especially the way the season was going. They knew he wasn't going to be coming back as the head coach. So they were able to get a head start on the interview process, the hiring process. They didn't know DeVries was leaving. He just, out of the blue, right? Surprise. So he didn't have time to build. He probably didn't have enough ample time to build the roster the way he wanted to build it. Same thing Rich Rod's doing in football. And if we're going to give Rich Rod a pass in year one, why should we treat Ross Hodge any differently? That's a double standard. Just because he's a West Virginia guy, I don't necessarily agree with that. You have to give Ross time. Now, if he comes out next year and doesn't improve, then maybe I'll say be different. But right now, we can't. This is not going to be, unless they pull a rabbit out of a hat. This is not going to be an NCAA tournament team. They might win 4 games, 5 games in the conference, maybe. As good as the Big 12 is, and the first 4 games they play are Kansas, Cincinnati, Iowa State, and I think Arizona. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we played 3 of the best teams right out of the gate. Welcome to Big 12 basketball, Ross Hodge, right? He's baptized by fire. And speaking of that, we have to understand, too, that this is Ross Hodge's first year coaching a big program, a high major program, a Power 4 program. I'm sure there is a learning curve for him. So give him some grace, man. Give him some runway, because he doesn't have a Javon Small and wasn't able to recruit one. But when you look at the recruiting he's doing with, by getting Amir Jenkins, he was a top 75 player. By being able to get Miles Sadler, a 5-star, another 4-star next year in Kingston Whitty, and Aliu Dium's coming in. Jaden Forsyth was a highly rated recruit this year. You have to give him some grace and some time. Let's take the emotions out of it. Browns and Beers, thank you for the comment, young sir. He says, and with how far North Texas advanced in the NIT, that was an even later start to the portal recruiting. Absolutely. They made it all the way, I think, to the semifinals of the NIT last year, maybe even the championship. I don't remember, but nonetheless, they made it deep in the tournament. And he wanted to stay on with his team, and rightfully so. And we all respected that, talked about how we admired his loyalty. And now all of a sudden we want to crucify him for not being able to recruit. I mean, let's use logic. We get them. Yes, I got frustrated watching the game last night too, just like everybody else. And it's probably honestly a good thing I didn't come on here and do a show right after, because I probably would have been overly emotional. But once you sit back, give yourself time to think, understand put context around the situation. What did we expect? I think this team. Now, did I expect them to lose all 4 of these games against Xavier, Clemson, Wake Forest, and Ohio State? I didn't. But if you think about it, 2 of those games were right there for the taking. They just collapsed at the end for whatever reason. And I saw one person on X make a point that really Ross Hodge, this team according to this person anyway, and I don't remember who it was, said with the talent level he's got, we probably shouldn't be as good as we are. But now I don't know that I agree with that. I think there are some talented guys on that roster. But my point being is we got to pump the brakes, man. It's talking about firing a coach 12 games into his first year with a brand new roster is ludicrous. Ludicrous. It's fair to criticize him for decisions. It's fair to say he's not doing a good enough job. But to go as far as to say to fire him, and I didn't even want to put the word fire on my thumbnail because I thought it was just overly negative and I didn't want to be clickbaity. But I do think it's fair to have this conversation about was he the right hire. I don't think we know yet. We don't know yet. 1 year, this is not enough time to judge that. We need to give him at least 1 more year, maybe 2. Because of where this program was at before with two back-to-back total rebuilds, really three if you think about the Josh Eilert year. There was a bunch of new guys coming in that year too. You've got to give a coach time to build the program the way he wants to build it, man. You can't just keep changing every year. That's not a winning formula. So anyway, that's my rant. That's my 2 cents on that. But I want to know what you all think. Let's go ahead and get to the comments. We've got Lifted Diesel in the house. He says, no, I may just be thinking my own way here, but I feel like if you start talking about wanting to fire a first-year coach, I feel like that affects your recruiting. It possibly could. I don't think it has a huge effect on it. But I think it could. Absolutely. Now, if they don't win a lot of games this year, that could have an impact on it too. In all fairness. But I just don't think it's good. It's not good for the psyche of the team. It's not good for, I actually recommend they stay off social media, but they won't. But again, it's these players and these coaches are not above being criticized, but saying they should be fired is to me, at least right now. Now, if we're still having this conversation 2 years from now, by all means, go right ahead and say that, because I might be right beside you. But right now, way too early, man. It's way too early to pass judgment on this coaching staff. You have to give them a year to recruit their types of high school kids, a full portal recruiting cycle to get, if you want to call it that, but a full portal window to get their portal guys in. Another, now that the revenue sharing is fully, we got to keep in mind too, the revenue sharing is now a part of it. We need to give them time to use that to their advantage. That wasn't there a year ago. So that might be able, West Virginia may be able to entice better players out of the portal. Players love to play for Ross Hodge. That's obvious. You hear players talk about him. You hear, how glowing Brendan Lorient and Jasper Floyd are about him. You can tell he's a player's coach. They love to play for him. So I think with the recruiting ability of Yusuf Ali and the likability of Coach Hodge and the way he coaches, I really think, in the way he is, building a culture and whatnot, I think they will be able to get some really talented guys out of the portal this year, from potentially even from the Power 4 level. So let's see that play out. See how, can Miles Sadler come in and be an instant impact player next year as a true freshman? How much better can Amir Jenkins be next year if he stays? If all this pans out, West Virginia can end up being a really good basketball team next year and even better 2 to 3 years from now. We have to give Rich Rodriguez and Ross Hodge both time to build the program, instill their culture, and 12 games is not enough time to do that, guys. It's just not. It's just not. We got Jimmy McKinnon in the house. Says, don't blame Trace and Eagle staff fans. Is doing what he can. The Big 12 teams are struggling a bit, not just us. Got John Schaefer in the house. I have watched us drop big leads due to body size. That's a part of it too. That was one of my fears in the preseason. I talked about that. None of the big bodies. They did have Obioha, but that's it. You saw when he put Lorient on Thornton there in that last possession, he just bullied him, man. Just pushed him backwards. Lorient did the best. Lorient didn't bite for his ball fake, or his head fake, but he still was able to get a shot up over him, and he just couldn't do anything with him, man. Lifted Diesel says, I don't hear anybody saying fire Coach Rod. This season was horrible too. It's the first year. LOL. I'm sure there's people, but you get the point. Yeah, exactly. Hold him to the same standard. John Kelly now says he's going to need some time. They at times looked really good last night. Yeah. Early on, they looked dominant. I love Honor. He was a great pickup. Eagle staff is a disappointment. As far as offensively, yes, he is. If he's not able to get his scoring mentalities, confidence back, he was going to be – those two guys were brought in. Him and Huff were brought in to do what? Score the basketball. Obviously play defense too, but primarily to score the basketball. And if he can't do that, it could be a long season. he is doing good on defense, and he is rebounding the ball fairly well too, and he plays his tail off. So I admire the young man for that. It seems like a great young man and with a great attitude, but for whatever reason, man, his confidence is just wavering right now, and he's got to get that back. Brendan Baker in the house says, I don't want Ross Hodge fired. This is just the first year. WVU fans need to learn to be patient. I didn't see any of you people. Maybe some of y'all don't have X, but man, I wish y'all had been on X last night because it was a firestorm of people wanting him fired. There was about a handful of us that were, saying the opposite, but Lord have mercy. Raven says, our guys didn't give up. They were fighting until the end. That wouldn't have happened last season. That's a great comment, Raven. They definitely fought hard to the end. They don't give up. They play hard. The effort's there. The attitude, I think, is there. It's just, man, they're just not executing. They're making some boneheaded mistakes. Again, turning it over 15 times, standing on the out-of-bounds line multiple times, bouncing it off your leg, and stuff they weren't doing earlier in the year. It's like, and I tell you, they struggled to handle the press a little bit at the end, I noticed too. I'll tell you what I did like. Let's be positive for a second about Coach Hodge. When he let Honor Huff bring the ball up to court and put the ball in his hands and let him go to work there in the overtime, I thought that was a great adjustment. Because you force the defense, then, okay, he's got the ball in his hands. It puts pressure on the defense to make sure they know where he's at all times, and he can draw double teams and then dish it like he did. When he drew that double team, he kicked it over Loint for that three. He can drive it to the lane and kick it over to teammates for dunks. He did that a time or two. I actually like that. And I would not mind if they use that a little bit more. If Honor's going to continue to be your only scorer, maybe it won't work to do for a full game because it will just wear him out. But if you use it strategically at certain times in the game, I think it could be a strategy they could use. And he seems like a pretty decent ball handler, like he handles the ball well enough to do it. So it'll be interesting to see if they use that more frequently. This is another comment I heard a lot. Ross Hodge meet Neil Brown. I do. It's hard not to see the similarities there. It really isn't. But again, Neil Brown had 6 years. Ross Hodge is in game 12. So let's not quite go there just yet. All right. Your title known as disturbing. Apparently, you didn't look at the question mark, the big red question mark I put on the thumbnail, bud. I could have said, is it time to fire? And I didn't. So, I mean, you clicked on it and you're here in the chat. So what's that tell you? John Kelly says they played hard. If you're overly positive, let's just be honest. If you don't put a good thumbnail and something that makes people want to click on the video, they don't click on the video. And then I don't get any views. And then there's no point in me doing this. So, I'm not going to, anyway, it is what it is. Raven Grady in the house. Travis says if we have 15 turnovers against Iowa State, they will embarrass us. Ross will figure it out. We might be a 15 to 17 win ball club. I don't think we'll get to that many. Think about this. Let's do the math. They have played 12 games. They've won 8. They only have they play about 31 games, so they have what? 29 or 19 left. 18 of those are Big 12 games. They're going to beat Mississippi Valley State. That'll be win number 9. But realistically, how many Big 12 games do you think they can win? Actually, I might do a whole video on that. I've touched on that a little bit already. I changed my expectation from 18 wins down to 14. And I think that's probably about where we need to be. I did that, I think, after it was either the Xavier game or the Clemson game. I changed it to 14. And I think that's about where I'm at right now. I think a 14-win basketball team is about where we are. And let's not forget, John Beilein didn't win a lot of games his first season at West Virginia. Bob Huggins didn't win a lot of games his first season at West Virginia. First-year coaches typically don't win a lot of games, y'all. Last year was an anomaly. We have to stop comparing it to last year because there was an NBA-level player on that roster. That changes everything. Basketball is a game where one player can have a massive effect on your entire team because there's only 5 guys on the floor at one time, more so even than football, outside of maybe your quarterback. So it matters, especially when he was the point guard too. That makes it even more impactful, potentially. When you have an NBA caliber player on your roster, that's going to give you extra more wins just by itself. And I don't see an NBA player on this roster, at least not right now, that's NBA ready right now. I mean, again, Amir Jenkins, I think can be. I see some Miles McBride in him, but he's not there yet. We got to remember he actually enrolled a year early. He reclassified for the 2025 class when he was originally supposed to be in the 2026 class. So, he might need, physically he might not be there yet. We have to keep that in mind with him. That's why I'm so excited about him. The future's so bright for that young man. I'd love to see him get more playing time, but for whatever reason, I guess Coach Hodge felt like he wasn't ready yet last night to play down the stretch. And plus, again, Floyd was playing well. Up until the overtime periods, he played pretty well. All right. See if there's any comments here. Lit the Diesel says, people like you wanting a new coach fired is a way to get 5-star recruits to be like, yeah, I'm not going there. They already want their coach fired. I guess there's some people in the chat that disagree with me, and that's okay. I just think it's way too early to be wanting a coach fired after you got to give the guy time. And 12 games is not enough time to prove anything. It's not. Not when you have a whole new roster. Not when you have, and Tyler, with all due respect, I don't think he's a deer in headlights. Has he made some decisions that make me scratch my head? Yes, but I don't think he's a deer in headlights. I think he's very confident in what he's doing. I think he's self-aware enough to make tweaks to what he's doing when he sees that he makes mistakes. And again, he's got to learn too. He's never coached. Any coach who says they come into they're going to be confident in their skills, or they wouldn't be where they are. But if I had to guess, until you're in that seat coaching against that level of competition, you probably don't exactly know what it's like. So there's going to be a learning curve for the coaches as well. Sometimes we fail to realize that. They're humans. They got to figure it out. They have to learn. They need to see, okay, how fast are the teams in the Big 12? How fast are the teams in the Power 4? How big are they? How lengthy are they? How big physically, big-bodied are they? All of that stuff. How do these coaches coach at this level? What adjustments will they make? What defenses do they play? All that stuff has to be learned. And you can't learn it fully until you're in the seat. So I think we got to give him a little bit of grace. Again, it's fair to criticize. It's fair to say, hey, I wish he'd have done this different, wish he'd have done that different. But to flat out say he should be fired, I just think's wrong. Hence the question mark in the thumbnail. Travis Overdorf says he thinks we might be able to steal a game at home or Honor Huff goes nuclear. Yeah, that's why I think 4 to 5 wins. There are some teams, fortunately, if you look at the Big 12 schedule, it's somewhat friendly this year as far as what teams West Virginia plays twice versus the ones they only play once. They play, for the most part, they play the better teams in the league only once. And some of the more weaker teams, at least on paper, weaker teams twice. That should help, for sure. Again, I don't have the schedule in front of me at the moment, but I do recall that from doing previous shows. The schedule lays out pretty nice for them. So they will win some games, especially at home. And they may win 1 or 2 games they're not supposed to. But to go through that 18-game gauntlet with half of them being on the road against the likes of Iowa State and Kansas and BYU, who's really good, it's just going to be really, really hard. And Arizona, who's one of the top, some think is the best team in the country right now, Houston. Think about that gauntlet of a schedule. And West Virginia plays 3 of those teams in the first 4. So they're going to be baptized by fire, man, here in the next, I think it all starts around the first of the year, December 31st, January 1, somewhere in there, they play that first Big 12 game. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. But I do think they'll steal one or two. I definitely do. But I think overall they're going to win probably 4 to 5 Big 12 games, and will be sitting here as a 14, maybe 15 win basketball team at the end of the year. But again, that's even if that happens, it's not time to fire Ross Hodge. You got to give him at least one more year, maybe two, to let him get his recruits in and see how he recruits the portal as well. Yeah, could possibly steal Kansas at home. John Kelly says, like they say on Three Guys, you're allowed to improve. Absolutely. But John, one thing's for sure, though. Other teams are going to improve too, man. And that's something sometimes we fail to realize that as fans. The other teams are going to get better too. WVU Fan 13 thinks the losses will be at Iowa State, at Houston, at Arizona State, at Arizona. Wins are Mississippi Valley State, Cincinnati at an even matchup. Colorado could be competitive. Kansas State competitive, Baylor competitive, all home in January. Yeah, again, there will be some wins in there. But when you get leads against teams, you have to put your foot on the throat, right? You can't let up. And they're going to have to steal one or two that aren't supposed to win, especially on the road. Ken Palm has us at 16 wins. That honestly is an optimistic number for me. And I know some people think I'm too negative. I'm a realist, man. I probably am a little pessimistic by nature, but I think that actually helps me in analyzing and breaking games and stuff down, because I'm not a pump sunshine guy. I'm not going to sit here and pump sunshine when it doesn't deserve it, but I'm also not going to say fire a guy when he's 12 games into his career with a new roster. So I just try to call it like I see it. And right now, what I see is a team who's still trying to figure things out, a coach who's still trying to figure things out. And until they figure it out and everything starts to click mentally and physically with the team, you can't fire him. I mean, did your job not give you a probation period, a 90-day probation period? Well, in a high level sports, it takes more than 90 days. It's a whole different animal. All right, I'm going to jump off of here. I appreciate everybody hopping in. Again, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. All that's free to do. There's buttons for all of that right underneath the video. Don't forget to let your family and friends know about us. Don't forget, on the Couz's Corner side of things, you might see, if you're watching on the replay on a mobile device, you might see a hype button. It's between the download and the thanks button underneath. Please hit that. That helps me as well. Be sure to turn on notifications. You'll get notified of future uploads and future live streams I do. Thanks again to the Rogue Sports Network for partnering with me over at Couz's Corner. Thanks to Appalachia Digital for sponsoring us and building our website over at wvsportschat.com. Again, please go check the site out. It's written content on the Mountaineers. We've not gotten as much content up the last few days as we'd like to, but we are going to be planning to add more writers probably around the first of the year. So we should start getting more content up here in the next couple of weeks. But you might see a little bit of it's holiday season. Football season's over, so there could be some days where we just don't get as much up. And two, we all do this on the side, so sometimes time is precious. But nonetheless, thanks everybody for hopping in. I appreciate your support. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf, and Q Country Roads.